we just got back from the Gartner conference, and there was a lot of stuff about AI. And I know the three of us have discussed the energy issues with AI, how much it uses, but at the same time, you all have been very encouraging that the efficiencies of what we bring is going to make up easily for anything else and significantly. But one of the things that was visual last night that really caught me that relates to what you were talking about was the Adobe Summit was wrapping up last night. And they demonstrated, I think it was a Photoshop add-on, that where you could move the object out of the way. And instead of having the empty silhouette where the object was, they called it object completion. And so it was a predictive fill-in, right, by AI, so that you didn't have to play around with that. And I can speak to it directly because I have used that stamp tool to fill in backgrounds and tried to make them look flawless. And it is
Right.
not an easy thing to do. So when I think about the amount of time and energy I have spent trying to do that, and this object completion product or tool tremendously speaks to what you guys were talking about yesterday. And so I'd love to address some of the stuff, Jake, you were talking about yesterday, the ability to measure energy use at
Yeah.
a much more distinct way. So we have some real tools for that. Do you mind
Right.
speaking to that a little bit?
Really, look, I mean, I feel like this is one of those topics that everybody, the technical to the non-technical, are going to get excited about because it's about money. I mean, if you care about the environment, that's great. But there's a bottom line that unites everybody, which is dollars flowing out your door. And when you are spending electricity, unless you are a deep techno nerd like myself who has a monitoring device on all of their computers, a kilowatt or something like that, one of those, you don't really know. And you're not aware, like, oh, if I have this AI operation or this video game or this other thing happening, what does that actually cost? Oh, I was running that for 8 hours. I was playing this game for 6 hours. What,
Right.
oh, that's 250. But wait. You mean out of my $300 a month of electricity, what portion went to which thing? If we started showing that, and perhaps more importantly for enterprises, for large groups where these turn into tens of thousands or more dollars of electricity in a month for a certain task, that's going to be significant. And we know there is a lot of tasks that are redundant because there really isn't an alternative at this moment. If I'm going to propagate videos from any of these social media sites like a TikTok or an Instagram or even a download from Netflix, they're sending me that same video. It might be cached at your Comcast ISP or Cox Cable or one of those groups, but it's still being sent again and again and again and again, and it's incredible amounts of redundancy. And there, all those, every little hop, those are all electrons. That's all a copy. That's all moving the same data somewhere else and again, and then erasing it and putting something else in that space and then doing it again. The efficiency gains that are possible in a scenario like that are they're just massive. And for
Yeah.
all these tasks, there's so much effort that is happening that ends up being redundant that we don't really have the choice to say, well, what if I distribute to my neighbors or in my own home or in this local community or in some other thing I'm connected to? What if I was to share some of this stuff instead of always regrabbing and recreating and reconstituting? This totally changes the energy dynamics. And again, even if you don't care about the world, you do care about money. And so these things add up rather quickly. What you had
Yeah.
asked at the beginning, Julie, was, hey, you mentioned something about metrics. One of the things that's interesting is we don't generally have access to metrics on computers. We have a battery meter, like when your phone's going to shut down. But
Yeah.
all your plugged in desktops and everything else, there is internal information, but very often it's really hard to get to, or it's put in a certain box. Like Microsoft offers something in the latest version of Windows 11 and a little bit in Windows 10 that shows you some aspects of certain chips, but not the whole box, not the motherboard, not other parts of the power, not the GPUs. Windows 11 is starting to do this, but to see what those numbers are and which tasks are costing you what. There's no accounting. It's sort of like, oh, who knows what's going on? In Linux, I can't even get access to this stuff unless I'm the root, which means the key administrator, the person who set up the machine and owns the machine. That's not the common user, and can be complicated. In all these scenarios, it'd be great to know, hey, how much did that actually burn for wattage? And we use that here at Mindaptive because the core thing we want to do is say, all right, technique A, what did that cost us for speed, for wattage, for how much bandwidth did we use? Those are copies. which affect speed and affect wattage and affect storage, but it's its own metric. We collect all that because we want to try technique B and then mix them up, a little bit of A, a little bit of B. Oh, let's throw in C, throw in D, keep permuting them until we get the best goal for whatever that user is seeking. And without those tools, if you don't have the ability to say, hey, let's measure this and let's permute, let's try a new thing. Without those kind of tools, there's really nothing you can do about this. You build the code, it's one big fixed gigantic piece of code, and then it runs. And what did it burn? Who cares? I don't, it just runs. That's all we care about. And that's a great beginning for a pioneering industry. It's like chopping down all the trees and burning them and then saying, where are we going to get the wood for the rest of the village? Oh, we don't know. We just figured out at the beginning. So I've been talking for a while. When I pass this over to Ken.
And Ken, you had a great response in that discussion yesterday as well.
Um, Thank you, Julie and Jake. Your excitement, it parallels my own. We're all really excited because there's so many things we can bring to the table to address what would otherwise be maybe a runaway situation. In other words, there's a lot of tendency in the current paradigm to go with a good enough mindset. In other words, well, we might be able to do things better. We might be able to have more efficiency and more control, but we sort of don't have the time to do that. So we're just going to push it out the door as it is. Our approaches at the foundation are essentially meant for precision and efficiency in everything we do. Therefore, one might expect, well, if the whole world starts using our technology and they all start creating, that might cause some to pause and think, wait a minute, isn't that going to burn up more energy? Our response to that, and of course, we want other people to validate this as we roll our technology out. People aren't going to just be spending all their time just making stuff that nobody needs and nobody wants, right?
Right.
They're going to be looking at not only what is an efficient use of their time in terms of creating things, but they're also going to be looking at, oh, what do I not have to create? If someone else has created a solution to a problem and they've gone through the same cycle that we would do ourselves, in other words, as Jake was describing, permute, try option A, try option B, try option C, mesh them together somehow and produce a better outcome with efficiency and precision baked in. Now that can be offered up like a Lego brick. Do I want to use your Lego brick? Heck yeah. I don't want to create a Lego brick myself. If one already exists, I want to grab it and I want to connect it to what others have created and what I create. And I can build solutions much faster that way. So as Jake was describing, money matters, right? But so does time. We value time. We should value time. Time, you can't get it back. You can get more money, but you can't get more time. So we believe that the efficiency that is baked into our approach, that's fundamentally unique to it, right? Because this is not the normal software paradigm we're talking about here. We're not talking about just good enough solutions. Oh, and yeah, there are byproducts that we have to deal with, like energy wastage, time wastage, obsolescence baked in, repeating things over and over and over and over again. But let's roll those out because they're good enough. In the oneware paradigm, they're not. That's not good enough. And that is exciting. That is, as I would say, I think we'd all agree that the energy efficiency, the cost efficiency, the time efficiency that are all unique to this approach are something to be excited about.
I agree with that strongly. And Ken, you remind me as well that these are tools. I mean, today software is an incredible tool. It affects every industry. Is it Mark Benioff that has the quote about software is eating everything, or
it's Mark Andreessen.
Andreessen, sorry. Right, I'm mixing these guys, but the core idea is it's in everything we do. There's really no space that isn't affected by people with cell phones and checking schedules and reminders and connections and data finding and answering and AI is just opening this up. And all the things that are happening, let's call it neural nets. So we're staying technical here, but all the things in the neural nets, they're wonderful. But the amount of training, huge amounts of energy, which is generally not reused. I mean, it's not possible because you have a very fixed layout of that net itself, right? All the data comes in, think of it like a big silo, and it pours in as like a sifter of all the different operations that would happen. Julie was talking about a content aware fill. Adobe's brand name for that is object
Completion.
Completely.
object completion. But and they've been working on that for 20 years. NVIDIA had a great CAF, content aware fill, where you pulled somebody across the blue sky and they filled it in sort of blue gradients. 20 years ago, it wasn't neural net based, but this is an important challenge for a lot of creation of content. But the training data is huge energy costs going through tweaking all the little knobs in this massive neural net and then sharing it with others. The build is just tremendous. And if people are competing, everybody's like, well, I got to retrain and make mine better than theirs. And they got to retrain. And it's a continuous thing. It's ever escalating and it's exponential. These are interesting things. We shouldn't throw out these tools. We shouldn't say, oh, no, LLMs are bad. CNNs are bad. Neural nets are great. They are a really cool tool. They do things very well at what they're trying to do. Not all things, but the things they do. And the notion of being able to cut and paste behavior, which is what Wantware does by reworking data structures and remapping code to it on the fly, enables people to reuse large portions of this, enables us to reorder how it's flowing through, enables us to say, okay, can we trim out this portion of the network and get similar results? Because if I'm doing the content aware fill, you just said the name, object completion. If I'm doing that and I'm only in an urban area, I might not need this whole section of the neural net that is lighting up over trees and other things that wouldn't be in the area. You could have more refined based on the content you're working on. You're on a TV show, you're on a political thing, you're on other stuff. You probably can get away with a much smaller set of what you need to get your inferences. Potentially. I mean, another scope, you might say, no, the bigger is better. We cover more things. There's lots to it. The idea isn't that I would ever know, or Ken or Julie or anybody here would ever know. Not one person or not one group. The idea, I would think, is how quickly does it take and how much does it cost to find out the answer? Let's try this. Oh, you know what? We thought that was great and it was the worst thing ever. Okay. But and the part that Julie brought in before about the metrics, that's how you validate this. That's how you actually say, oh yeah, wow, here's what this is going to cost. Now we actually know versus we'll see. Somebody's going to foot the bill. And that's how we're playing it.
To your point, and I'll turn it back over to Julie in just a second here. To your point, what is it that was said, Julie, at the Adobe Summit about this and other things that they demonstrated? They might make it into the marketplace. They might. Why? Because everything that Jakes was saying is relevant to their decision. How much does it take to deliver this? How much cost does it cost to actually offer this to the public, right? It's a big consideration, not only to offer it to the public, but to maintain it, because they're always thinking of trade-offs. Because typically, if you offer something, what do you have to move out of the way, right? What has to go by the wayside in order for this new thing to exist? In our paradigm, you don't have to make those trade-offs. When you come to the Future Mindaptive Summits, what we show you is what you can get, right? And in fact, you probably have it already, and you may not even know it's there. In a sense, you do, because the predominance of what we unveil will not be made from code. It will be our description of what that new capability is, and the instructions for the hardware will be generated on the fly and then deleted. So thereby dealing with the typical byproduct software is that it has to be maintained. It stays around, right? Somebody has to deal with that. In our case, what we generate doesn't hang around. It's ephemeral. It literally disappears, right? Go ahead, Jake.
Interrupt. I just want to make sure we're for the space people out there, like we want to put one fixed piece of software on a ship and send it somewhere and don't touch it. We can do that too.
Right. And I just want to I just want to kind of pull this together now, and for one thing, at the Mind Active Summit, right?
Yes.
And we are going to have our Emporium Marketplace, right, for
Mhm.
active minds. And I just got the vision of a Pokemon AR experience in your phone where you can walk around and find out what other people have created and grab that open source right there in the space. So I think I see some things evolving for our marketing for our
Yeah,
Mind Active Summit that's
I love it.
that we're going to pull together. But I think I also want to mention here too is something that you both have brought up is what's going to happen for people. And
Mhm.
Jake has spoken strongly to the morale of the people you work with, you know, that the things you're working on, because they'll be more efficient, because you can develop in better environments and feel better about what you're doing. And things are when they run the less trial and error, zero
Right.
stack. All of these things are going to make such a difference to how people feel about their jobs and how they feel about the things that they're working on. But even more so, you're expanding the talent of your people because now they can all participate at the highest level that they can bring in, right?
That's right.
And you're expanding solutions and collaborations around the world. So this is no small feat. And what we really want to get across when we talk about green code and green development and all the other pieces that we're bringing is that the breadth and depth of what's going to come for people to be able to do this is beyond what you can imagine. And we were just talking about moving from horse to car, and then we expanded it to nuclear reactor. If you had a nuclear reactor in your car with clean energy, that would just blow the socks off everything we could do. Unfortunately, that's a little more iffy, I think. But anyway, we invite everybody to stay in touch. We have a ton of articles on here. We'd love you to read. Ken has been prolifically writing, so there's so much you can get out of his blogs. Jake, you can see him in his studio there, working away, monitoring everything he's doing as it goes along with his wonderful green. Those are all plants in the back there that he takes good care of. And we're super excited for you all to participate with us and engage with us. You know, comment on the things you read. Let us know what you're hearing. And we're just going to keep building out, talking to y'all. So you get connected you'll be active minds with us. And we look forward to it. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Julie.